fun to talk to people about, you know, what they're working on and how they're connecting other people in our community. I mean, for me, when I grew up in Hanover, I moved away for some time. And then when I moved back, like for me, there were moments where I was like, am I going to stay or not? Rocking and rolling.
Lindsay Purcell from the Deep Dives, Light Laughs podcast. Thank you for coming by.
Dave, thank you so much for having me. It's a little trippy to be on the other side of the interview, but excited to be here.
A little trippy. We got cameras running. Everything is,
Yeah, you've got different. A very official setup over here, and I really, really like what you were doing with Inside the Frame.
I appreciate it. I am also, gonna give that back to you. I really like what you and Larry are doing with the deep dives and light laughs, and I appreciate you guys having me on. And
we got so much good feedback, by the way. A lot of people love that interview.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. So I'm glad to hear that. And hopefully, and again, having you back, little cross promotion. Hopefully we continue to promote each other and promote connections and storytelling and the arts, because I feel like a lot of the people that were on your podcast are there's a few of them that have been on mine. And
yeah, it's so funny, Dave, when you start down this road, right, of like wanting to tell stories of the community, it's amazing the crossover you'll find with other people with similar missions. And I mean, at the end of the day, what I think you and I really have in common is we really care about this community and we really love the people in it. So it is interesting to see that there's some crossover in our guests and some crossover in the types of stories that we're telling that I don't know that I could have predicted that, but I love to see it. And I love your take on things too.
I think, so in my head, I have this thing with when we're trying to promote the arts and there's artists that are here. And I have one particular, like Steve Bosnowski, who's an artist, excellent painter, was downstairs and his work was hanging, and somebody was asking about it, and I'm thinking to myself, he's right over there, you
go talk to him.
Yeah, and there's people that don't know, and I feel like some of their paths haven't crossed, and trying to make those introductions is important. And likewise, I can't believe that I hadn't even met you before. I mean, there's so many. There's so many.
Dave. Like, we have so many friends in common.
Yeah, there's a lot of crossover with people that you are connected with in me, but somehow the paths hadn't crossed. But I mean,
it could be this Norwell Hanover divide that we figured out might be an issue. Just kidding. That's Larry's Larry. So for those of you who have not met me before, my name is Lindsay Purcell, and I co-host a podcast called Deep Dives and Light Laughs with my good friend Larry Carpman. And Larry is the yin to my yang for sure. But Larry is really good about making sure that I don't have too much bias towards my hometown, Hanover, and that we are incorporating more people outside of Hanover, and especially Hanover's perceived rival of Norwell, which is where Dave is from.
Yep.
Connecting just a couple of dots there for us.
Now, is Larry from Norwell too?
No, Larry's from Marshfield.
Marshfield, okay.
Oh gosh,
because Julia is from Norwell.
I hope I don't get this wrong, but I think Larry grew up in Dorchester, and then he and his wife were in D.C. for a little bit, and then when they came back to the Massachusetts, they chose Marshfield. So he's been a Marshfield resident for, I want to say at least 30 years. I hope I'm not getting that wrong, but yeah, his daughter-in-law, Julia, who is an artist in town and now executive director of North River Art Society, she is from Norwell.
Yep.
All nice. These connections, 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah, and you and Larry actually met at Slacktide?
Yeah. Shameless promo. Yeah, it's so funny. This podcast came about because Larry and I were two strangers who became friends at Slacktide. He famously says that he just started working one day at Slacktide. The 3 gentlemen who own Slacktide, 2 of which are his sons, Zach and Max Cartman, and then Fletcher Suba. They're the 3 owners. They love to joke that Larry just started working there one day. But Larry is integral to Slacktide. He's got this really warm, welcoming personality, and he's really funny, which is why I like being around him. And he he gets to know people on a deeper level.
Yeah, no, he was in there hawking donuts. I think when we
wait, you're right. He has this whole shtick around like offering, like he'll say like anyone with pink sparkly boots or dinosaur rain jacket under the age of 7, and you're like 7? What about under 40? And he's like, no, 7. And then the kids go up and they get their free donut hole.
Yep.
He's very charismatic for sure.
Yeah, no, 100%. I when Julia was on the podcast, she said, "I'm like, oh, that's your father?" I'm like,
yeah.
I thought it was just some crazy guy who likes to work, like wanted to work selling donuts.
No, he like lives, breathes the brand, and is so supportive of his kids, and it's really cool. I mean, he's pretty accomplished in his own right with his own PR career.
Yep.
But I think it's really cool that he has the space to support his sons in this way, who are killing it, by the way. They just announced their 3rd location opening up in Kingston. I think I don't know that they've officially announced when, so I'm guessing it's going to be late spring, but I don't know if that's true or not.
Nice. Yeah, Julia was episode 16, and had a great conversation with her.
I loved that episode. I watched
She was on. What episode was she for you guys?
Oh gosh, I don't know what episode she was for us, but I do know that she came on with her sister-in-law Grace Moore to promote. This is one of Julia's hats, by the way.
Yeah.
To promote the Wicked Women Makers Market, and because there's so much inception going on.
Yep.
Beth Bailey, who was on before Julia and Grace. I met Beth on the podcast, and Beth is a local artist who lives in Whitman. She is a potter. She's also, she did your
she just did. I was going to say, did you notice that?
Yeah, the windows out front. Yeah. So Beth also is an incredible like window artist. She also is a sketch artist too. I don't know if there's anything Beth doesn't do.
Yep.
But Beth and I met on the podcast thanks to Julia and hit it off. And she and I went in on a booth at the Wicked Women Makers Market. So another weird inception moment was my business, House of Stellium, which is a intuitive tarot and events business. Beth and I joined forces, so to speak, to make a table and create limited merch at the actual market. But that's put on by Julia and Grace. So one of many talents that Julia has, for sure.
Nice. Yeah, small
6
world.
degrees.
Now, is that what part of the connection between you and Larry? Are you in? Is it the PR? Are you in the PR business, or you're in the promotion?
That's a great question.
What is it?
I wonder if that's what Larry and I kind of connected on originally. But so when I met Larry, like you, I had no idea that he was the father of 2 of the owners of Slack Tide. Yeah. He and I just vibed when I would go to Slack Tide. We had this funny shtick where we would like be able to quickly catch up with each other and ask what's going on. But we were able to do like improv without having a conversation about it, which was fun. But Larry, once I got to know Larry, I learned that he had his own PR agency and had great success in that arena. And for me, I've spent my career in experiential marketing and events. Okay. So there's a good bit of marketing and a little bit of PR in there, but I would not call myself a PR professional by any means. That's definitely Larry's arena for sure.
Well, marketing, I mean, in a sense, is PR, right? I mean, when I think of PR, I think of just how you're putting yourself out there. So, which ties to marketing pretty closely, I think.
Oh my God, yeah, they definitely talk to each other. I think marketing, when I think about marketing, this is all of the groundwork you do to think about all of the ways you want to position yourself and the different mediums or channels through which you want to promote yourself.
Yep.
And PR is the intention of shining it outward, right? So that is also a carefully crafted message and how you want to present yourself. And that's Larry's expertise. So it's fun to riff with him because I feel like we speak the same language when it comes to marketing and PR, and he's taught me a good bit about PR too, for sure.
Yeah, no, when I was, on a couple weeks ago, it was, fantastic. You guys definitely have a very, great flow, easy to talk to both of you. It was so much fun. So.
Thank you. I mean, we just keep saying we're going to keep doing it until we're not having fun anymore.
Yeah.
And every episode is fun, and with every conversation, especially yours, for some conversations, Dave, we get really lucky and we all just, vibe off of each other and have a really easy conversation. And you're pretty darn funny yourself, and you're so well versed in the community and some of our really talented community members that it just made for a really fun, easy conversation.
Yeah.
And anytime I get Larry to do his can't stop laugh, then big success.
Yeah.
But I had a good one on your interview.
Yeah,
I feel like
he
couldn't stop himself. I got that like really good laugh from him.
Yeah, I was worried about him for a couple minutes there.
I was like, let him go. He's working through something. Well, what did I make a joke about? Like it's deep dives, light laughs, and mild interrogations.
Yeah, I think that was.
But let that not deter anyone from coming on our podcast, please, because we'd love to have you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and you guys are you're recording weekly or a couple times a month, falling into a routine.
Yeah, I would say for us, we found out that every other week for episodes is the right cadence for us. I mean, transparently, we're in different seasons of our lives. Larry is in a season where he has a little bit more free time, although I think he's still a pretty busy person.
Yep.
And I'm a person who has a lot of jobs.
Yep.
I own a few businesses, and I would say I'm happily in hustle mode. I love what I do, but that means that I have to be a little bit more thoughtful about the time I have to carve out for the podcast, but I love it. So we make the time. So long story short, if we had more time, we would do more podcasts. But right now we're doing every other week. And as you know, this is,
it's a challenge.
When you have support like you do, you have an incredible team. For us, we have a little bit less support, so it's just more work, right? Like we love what we do, but there's work that goes into it and getting it edited up on the channels and then promoting it. So what works for us is every other week right now.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot that goes into the podcasts and, and just like trying to make sure that you line up the guests. And, I run into this problem and like I end up, all right, this is the day I want to do it, end up booking two people and then having to fix it, and that's a challenge too.
Right?
You need like a booking agent,
I do need a booking agent. Like last week we were trying out a new format for an episode that we may or may not actually execute, so I won't spoiler alert myself on this one, but I can share that we were going to try a new format just to mix it up and get more people on the podcast. And we recorded the first segment 2 or 3 weeks ago, and then we were going to record the second segment last week. And unfortunately, the people we were going to interview, their kids got sick, got pulled out of school, and they're like, "We're so sorry, but we have to reschedule." And that's life, right? So Larry and I pivoted, and he hates when I make him record an episode of just us, but like, we have a pretty good banter, so we pivoted. We did an episode just us because we can't really find someone else on less than 1 day's notice. So it's totally cool. You roll with it, but that's just a part of doing a podcast, right? Because people have stuff that comes up all the time. Yeah. Well, but I could use a booking agent. If you find a good one, let me know.
Yeah. Well, maybe the two podcasts can combine and we'll get us a virtual booking agent.
You're proposing a super podcast?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's like one episode of Inside the Frame, then it's deep dives, then it's every other, and together we have a weekly podcast.
Yeah, why not?
Guys, you heard it here first.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Well,
Dave's like, wait, I didn't agree to that.
Whatever, man. I like coming up, I think, as I told you before, I mean, a lot of these are just conversations that would be had anyway. I mean, when me and you sat down at Slacktide for a kind of,
pre-coffee.
Yeah.
Or pre-podcast.
Yeah, get to know you type phase. I mean, I felt like it was just a very easy conversation that, probably could have lasted,
If I remember correctly, we were like, oh crap, it's been an hour, we gotta go.
Yeah, exactly. I think that could have just carried on. And, that's, I think, a lot of the fun for me about, podcasting is just, taking those conversations a little further. I'm fortunate. I have people walking in the door every day that, some of them are probably ducking like, oh, Jesus, I got to talk to them again. But I think that a lot of those artists that come in here their stories are very interesting, and getting to know them and, getting their stories out there, I think will help sell their artwork.
1,000%. And I think
as getting your story out there will help sell the
podcast. To your point though, Dave, I'm always so grateful to live in a spot where we have a lot of creatives who are, they're well known in our community. They have a lot of different mediums, but there's so many incredible artists on the South Shore. And I feel very grateful to live in a community that not only fosters them, but supports them. So I can only imagine, I mean, we talked a little bit about it on our podcast, but some of the stories you get to hear from the artists that come in, and also the front row seat you get to see and watching people's art or artists' art evolve over time as they come in with new pieces.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, it's a fun job.
Yeah, it sounds like a fun job.
Yeah, I have a couple of I brought in a couple of the ones I just picked up. And
wait, are these your personal?
Yeah, those are the two I bought and then framed. But I know that you're a fan of Carla.
Carla Hunter. Shout out to our friend Carla Hunter. She's doing a mini series right now. You got number 3?
Yeah.
Ooh, check you out. What was the Cinnabon?
Number 9.
Number 9. Dang, I wonder what number the rose is. So Carla's doing this really cool series where she's doing a painting a day for 100 days, which is no small feat. She kicked it off on January 1st. So this is the Hornstra Farms mini that she did. Number 3. Dave got number 3 out of 100.
Yeah.
And then let's show the Cinnabon one too. Dave has number 9, the Cinnabon one, which, by the way, this is Larry's favorite, so I think he scooped it out from him.
Oh, no kidding. I told her she should try to do reproductions, too. So.
She does. I don't know what number the rose is, but that's being delivered to me today.
Nice.
I purchased the rose, and I'm trying to, show some restraint around the second one, but I'm obviously going to buy a second one.
Yeah.
She's just so talented.
Super talented. Super nice person. She's coming on in a couple weeks, and I'm excited to have that conversation.
That's going to be a cool convo, especially where, gosh, she's been at this for quite some time, and she jumped full-time into her artistry, I think, last year officially. So she's probably got some really cool stories to tell now that she's got a full year under her belt.
And what's your connection with Carla?
Oh, yeah, Carla. So shortest version possible is my good friend Mackenzie Pezzi. She introduced me. Mackenzie's just this awesome human who lives just South Shore native. I met her through 6 other degrees of separation when we lived in Boston, and she is very much just a girl's girl, champion of fellow women and following your passions, men too. But she, maybe it was after she moved to the South Shore. She and her husband moved here last year. She was like, hey, if you haven't crossed paths with my friend Carla yet, I think you two would hit it off. And I was like, I don't know why or how, but Carla's not on my radar. How do I find her? And she goes, good news, you're doing a market together. You'll meet her soon. And I was like, oh, great. So I think technically the first time I met her was I was doing tarot at Kel Mahoney's gallery.
Yep.
I think it was Release the Kraken was the show he was doing. Carla had a lighthouse piece in that show. So Kenzie basically set up a meet cute for us where in between my tarot readings, I saw Carla walk in and I got to meet her and her husband and her cute little kiddo. And, it was short meeting, but I was like, yeah, vibe check passes. Carla's cool. And that was last summer. So we've fostered a friendship ever since.
Nice.
Just, good people meeting good people.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's crazy, like I said,
the 6
you
degrees.
just cross paths and it's,
or one
small
friend
world,
says
right?
to you, hey, I think you would like this person. Let's see if you can meet them. And I'm like, yes, that sounds great.
Yeah, and I think that's important that
Yeah.
Connect people, and I know that's the whole kind of purpose of the podcast that you're having. So I think we're on a similar mission.
I think so too. I mean, it's a lot of fun to talk to people about, what they're working on and how they're connecting other people in our community. I mean, for me, when I grew up in Hanover, I moved away for some time. And then when I moved back, for me, there were moments where I was like, am I going to stay or not?
Yep.
Is this going to be a community I can grow with? And I'm proud to say that, or happy to say, proud to say is kind of funny, but happy to say that my first judgment when I moved back was maybe a little too quick.
Yep.
And it's incredible to see all of the entrepreneurs who have, put all of their effort into creating these awesome spaces for us to enjoy and to just see the community grow and change over time. I mean, I think it's always been here.
Yep.
I just think, like with anything, communities change depending on what people support and pour into.
Yeah, and then I think you just need, something could be over here and it just needs the light shined on it so that everyone kind of turns and, wow, this is a cool spot,
Touche, which is exactly what you're doing with Inside the Frame for sure. And you're doing a great job with it, for the record.
Thanks. The feedback has been good so far, so
I need
hopefully
merch,
we'll continue.
Dave. I need merch. You got a hat on.
Yeah.
I got to make my own merch for Deep Dives and Light Laughs for sure.
Oh, this is my brother's Frame Residential.
I noticed, but I was like, what is the tie to the Frame Center? Is it just it's your brother's business?
He has a residential real estate company, and I think he used the name Frame to kind of tie into the.
I love it.
Pay homage to the Frame Center, which so
I think it's great. I mean, I mistook it for your merch, so I'm going to
steal
cool.
the concept and just change that residential to center.
Ask him for
something.
the template, ask him for the vendor, and just swap it out and get them made.
Yeah, no, I think the merch is important. You guys, you guys have the logo going. You guys have a pretty good PR
this
marketing
feels like
team.
a Julia Driscoll, like another moment here. Because fun fact, guys, we had the luxury of getting to hire Julia because Julia is Larry's daughter-in-law to do our brand identity. So Julia helped us create the actual artwork for the podcast and come up with our brand identity. And what was fun about that with my and Larry's background is I, did a very brief creative brief for Julia, talked about, color thoughts around like what colors evoke different emotions and the energy of the podcast and how we wanted that to reflect. And it's simple in nature intentionally. Like we don't want to overcomplicate this. And, for us, it really is about deep dives and light laughs. Like we want to get to know you better, but like Larry and I are pretty quick-witted and sassy or sarcastic. So you're going to get those light laughs in too. And it should be a fun listen for folks when they're in the car, just getting to know people in the community. I mean, for us, we've done 20 episodes now.
Nice.
We almost have a year under our belt. And in a year, we've talked to artists, we've talked to florists, we've talked to
librarians.
Oh, librarians.
I don't know. Or promoters of libraries.
You're yes, librarians.
One of my favorite libraries.
Wait, really?
Yeah, the James is fantastic.
The James is awesome.
And Megan is great. I listened to that one, I think actually on the way into, to record with you guys.
Did you?
Yeah.
I will say that was a really fun, I enjoy every conversation we have, but the James was a fun one for us because, to be fully honest, it's a place that I was driving by and not going to. So I think that episode was secretly for me so that I could get to know what the James is and why everyone should go there. I had this weird, completely false belief that it was a private library that you couldn't go to. And I popped in the weekend before we recorded. It was an open house in Norwell. I think Norwell Center was doing some sort of like open house or weekend in that square by the fire station does a lot of community gatherings.
Yeah, watched a couple parades there when I was a kid.
There was some sort of like, I think it was around Thanksgiving, an open house weekend. So they were jam-packed. There were tons of people in there. And they actually had Santa upstairs doing photos for the community. So I got to know the James really quickly and Megan and couldn't get over the way that they use that space, right? I mean, they've got the event space upstairs, which I've heard a good friend of mine is now doing an event there. You've got the library on the main floor, and then you have the gallery on the ground or the basement level.
Yeah, Bill's it's beautiful. Fantastic. He's
he's the curator, right?
Yep, very knowledgeable. He lines up the shows. He does a great job.
Talk about being thoughtful in how you use a space and how you diversify the types of people who can come in and also just mix up the offerings, right?
Yep.
But I didn't know any of that. So I think that episode was secretly for me, Dave.
Yeah, maybe you should line something up. Get up to that third floor, do some tarot card readings.
Yeah. That would be a pretty epic tarot event. Although maybe I should angle it more for like a private event or like a smaller corporate event for a client on the South Shore.
Nice. What's the history on the tarot stuff?
Oh, tarot. Okay, so I would say my primary job, so to speak, is a wedding and event planner / experiential marketer. Yeah. But for me, a couple of years ago, I added in intuitive tarot. And there's a story there. I know that probably feels really random. But let's see. The shortest version possible of this story is about 10 years ago, my dad passed away. Mm-hmm. And for me, it really kind of changed the way I saw the world in some really good ways, right? Like I had a better resolve around like, don't sweat the small stuff and maybe living a little bit more intentionally and not just letting life happen to me and like remembering that I can do whatever the heck I want to do. I actually don't have to follow a certain script or do this thing or do that thing because I should. Mm-hmm. So it cracked me open in some really beautiful ways, I would say. And one of it was it started to shake out my feeling around, I was working in a corporate job, a great corporate job, but just wasn't feeling right, Dave. Mm-hmm. So as that shook itself out, I ended up getting my Reiki 1 certification, then my Reiki 2 certification, and then I left corporate, started my own marketing and events business. And as that started to like get my feet under the ground there, I was still really curious about the spirituality world. I'd always been a kid who was into astrology, and I was always asking people what their zodiac sign is. I still do that. Yeah. I'm still that person all these years later. And and just felt really sensitive to energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once I got the marketing and event business underway and figured out how to make money as an entrepreneur,
Yep.
I had a really strong pull to learn tarot, which felt random to me.
Yep.
But I'm someone who really trusts my gut and I trust the signs that I get. So I took a formal tarot class 2 years ago, and I think it was 4 classes, 2 hours long. So not short. It was pretty intensive. When it was over, Dave, it's hard to explain the resolve I had around, like, I just need to start doing this now.
Yeah.
It flowed so naturally for me. And for me, the intuitive tarot comes in a way that I'm connecting to my higher self around the messages. So the cards tell a story, right? The cards have these beautiful visuals. And if we're talking about art, there's so many different decks you can buy that use beautiful imagery.
I know nothing about tarot or stuff. All I can think of is like Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and the bike is in the basement of the Alamo. Yeah.
Wait, that is such a deep breath. That is great.
I mean, that's what comes to mind when I think of like reading tarot cards. But,
I love it. Okay, well, that's one reference for sure. I love it. All right, so how I use it is that, so high level, 78 cards in a deck.
Yep.
Out of the tarot deck, there's 22 that have words on them, right? So the Lovers, Death, the Empress, the World. Mm-hmm. Those are big changes or themes in your life. The other cards, so about 2/3, are the suits. And tarot, for me, is used as a tool to help you get, in my opinion, answers to questions you have. Mm-hmm. So when I pull tarot cards, the cards on the table give me hints about what we're going to talk about. Yep. And I am synthesizing through my energy with the person across from me and with my guides what the messages is for that person. Mm-hmm. So I know we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here.
I'm interested. So you're basically shuffling the deck up, and it's like your energy and your connection with the person kind of. Yeah. No, it helps. So I'm trying to grasp it. Yeah.
You're totally getting it. So when someone sits down, I always tell people, like, hey, I'm a big believer that this is a chance for you to get answers to questions you have about something that's going on in your life, to give you advice on how to navigate it. Mm-hmm. It's totally up to you as to whether or not you take that advice. That's your choice. But it's not here to tell you how to live your life or what, specifically, definitively the future holds. Again, these are my beliefs around tarot. So when the cards get shuffled, and I usually ask people, I cut the deck into 3 piles. I ask them to put it back into 1. Then I pull cards. So I have a spread. That's how you arrange the cards. It's unique to me. Mm-hmm. And when they're down, I'm now looking at, like, high level, what are the themes of the conversation? What are the themes of the messages? And then as I interpret each card, more comes through for that person. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I use it as a method for people to feel empowered and feel like they're back in the driver's seat of their lives. But I'm a big believer that it's not here to tell you how to live your life or, like, give you definitive answers on what's going to happen. It's a guide to help you feel like you know how to handle the tough stuff in your life.
Well, kind of like me watching people evolve as artists. After you do a reading for someone, do you follow up with them and see how they're doing?
This is my favorite part. I've actually had, now that I've got 2 years of business.
Do you like get connected to them and you're like wanting to see them succeed or become all they can be, right?
I love this question. Thank you, Dave. Yes, like there's I'm very fortunate to have repeat clients that come back, but more so I live and work in this community. So one important layer is discretion, right? So I always tell people, I used to work in law firms, so I treat tarot readings like attorney-client privilege. Yep. I will never speak about what your question is. I will never speak about what your answers were. Mm-hmm. But it's really fun and special when they come back to me and will give me the life update to how they handled the thing they came in with a question about and how, like, what transpired. And I'm actually, it sounds cheesy, but I'm getting chills because there's been so many incredible people that are, kind enough, I guess, to give me the update. Yep. And even if they don't give me the update and I'm walking around the South Shore and I see them, showing up differently or like having, like, sometimes the things they're asking about will give me a visual cue. Right? I don't know if it's my effect per se, but like it's yes and no, right? Because I'm just the messenger, but they're the ones that did the work, right? Yep. So for me, yes, it's really cool when I get to see people on the South Shore again and there's a visual change I can see. And sometimes there's like a little wink and like a thank you, depending on what their comfort level is. But yes, 2 years in, I'm very grateful to see people now having made choices. And without giving any details about these people, who they are, some like flavors to some of the things I've been witness to. It's people expanding families. It's people totally changing gears in their career. It's breaking up with their partner if it wasn't the right one, or it's going for it with someone they thought about potentially like expressing their feelings to, or it's even like resolve in some of the challenging relationships they have. Another one too is someone decided to trust the signs to sell their second home and then quit their full-time job and start their own business. And she's doing phenomenally. Like, it's really cool to watch these people just like shine and like live a good life. That's why I love to do tarot. It's like, let's help you feel good about what's going on in your life again, and like remember that this is all temporary. Let's have some fun, right?
Yeah. So they come to you with a question. So like, you know, so I might just be like, all right, tell me what's happening.
I mean, you could, but so here's the funny thing. There's a lot of really incredible tarot readers out there that will give you a reading like that. I don't like to.
You want to answer a question?
Yeah. Like here's, again, to be transparent, I have a full-time gig, right? Like I'm a wedding and event planner and experiential marketer. Like I'm busy, but I love tarot. So I make time for tarot and I keep trying to make more time for tarot, but I do it because my personal why is I want people to feel empowered in their life. I want you to feel good and not feel like if you're in a crappy season that you're just gonna have to keep taking hits. Like, no, let's get you back in the driver's seat and feeling good. So you could, I have done readings like that before, Dave, and they're about an hour long. They're just not as satisfactory for them or for me. If you ask a question, you're going to get an answer. And what's fun is in the series, or in that like 30 or 60 minutes we have together, usually the person is like their eyes light up and they're like, yep, that's true. Yep. Okay. Like there's a reaction from them as I'm speaking with them about the cards. So it's fun to get the validation, and it's fun to leave with like, you asked a question, you got an answer, versus like 20 cards and here's what the themes are that feel a little bit, you know, big and hard to package. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just, if I'm going to put my time into tarot, I want it to be satisfactory for me too as the reader.
No, that's, I mean, sounds fun. I mean, do you ever come across things that you're like, you feel like you're warning people to guide them in a direction so that.
Yes. Yeah, there's definitely been some readings where, but to be clear, I always tell people, you're in the driver's seat, you're asking the question. So don't ask a question you're not prepared to get an answer to. That's how
I got to think of the question.
So when they, so I always, you know, they get that primer. So it's on them to decide if they want to ask that question. And in this, you know, the process of answering the question with the cards, Dave, like I will look at the cards and quickly synthesize, like, what is the tone of the conversation? And there's a few cards that stand out to me where I'm like, this is going to be a challenging one. I'm going to figure out how to share this message with them. And I've never not told the truth in a reading, but I will taper it depending on the physical reaction happening in front of me from the person. So again, I'm never hiding the truth. I may just taper it and say it a little bit differently. But yeah, I've had to give some, again, but it's a question they asked, to give them some messages based on the cards in front of me that are maybe a little bit tough to hear, but they deep down they knew it. It wasn't a surprise. They knew it. They just were afraid to maybe feel it.
So you're kind of just reinforcing what they are. Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely moments where like I'll put the cards down and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, we have 3 really tough cards here. This is going to be and I like have to catch myself, like, watch your face. Take a deep breath. Let's see how we can position this and like make it make sense from a whole and not just hone in on the 3 that might be a little bit tricky. That's rare, to be very clear. That's rare, but
and
there's moments.
The decks are like art is what I mean, they are art, I should say.
Yes. That's a really, so that's, that part's
I'm
fun.
interested, like I'm slightly interested in what I should ask, but I'm also now very intrigued to see some of these decks and to see the artistic aspect of that.
I actually have them in the car, so I can bring them in after. I don't have them all in the car, but I think I have upwards of 7 decks now. And for me, the decks are, they're a visual representation. So I had my first deck. There's a belief in tarot that not everyone subscribes to, that you should be gifted your first deck. So I was gifted my first deck in the class that I took. And that's the very traditional OG deck. That's the Waite Rider deck. So that's the one that most people know as traditional tarot. And then I have, I think, 6 others at this point, and they all have different imagery. So it's based on different artists who put them together, but all of the the names on the cards and the suits are the same, but the images on the cards are very different.
So they can interpret it in a different way. That's kind of cool. I'd like to, I definitely want to see them.
But it's definitely a choice, right? Because I'm choosing different decks based on who's in front of me, or maybe the environment that I'm doing the readings in, because even though I'm not an artist, I'm definitely a very visual person. And especially in experiential marketing, I'm taking in the entire environment, and I want to make sure that people are having an experience that matches at every touch point. So that includes the art on the cards, and it includes the environment that I'm doing the readings in.
That's cool. I'm my head's spinning with ideas, and I super interested to see them. I think that I've talked to a number of people about like collecting and collections, like art collections, and like that just seems like another like cool like artistic thing that maybe I'll buy a set of tarot cards at some point.
I mean, who knows, Dave? The sky's the limit.
You can see them framed. I feel like we've framed some cards, and I bet you some of them are tarot cards, but we definitely have framed regular decks of cards, because those are all done as can be done artistically as well.
Absolutely.
I've seen people like painting on cards and like changing them up. So
there's this really cool artist in Plymouth named Jamie Reel. She also is the founder of Support Local Babes. I think on Instagram she goes by Jamie Makes. She's been working on her own tarot deck for a while, and I hold this not so secret vision of working with her one day on House of Stellium merch, and maybe even my own tarot deck, but that feels a little bit far away. I'd want to make sure that I'd like fully thought out the direction and the tone of the deck before I even started a conversation with her.
Yeah, I guess that's a lot of work too. Would you say there's 78 cards?
78 cards in a deck, and to do it with integrity, like you want to do a whole mood board and come up with a theme for the deck, and would certainly be an investment of my time and the artist's time for sure. So it's a down the road goal. It's not a right now goal for sure. Well,
I mean, I think that's like something that's definitely saleable, right? You just have to look into what's the production like for how many decks of cards.
Oh, you mean like when Beth and I did our first limited merch run at Wicked Women's, where so when I collaborated with Beth Bailey, she and I did a booth at Wicked Women, and she had her own line of pottery that she was selling, and like other pendants and other pottery items. And the stuff we collaborated on together is she helped me make my first ever manifestation journals with phrases that I say a lot in my readings. She also made altar dishes that go with my altar kits. That's a crystal and a stick of Palo Santo. And then we also together created, I'm looking at my notes because I don't want to miss the thing we put together. The last week, when we were doing the readings, I did readings and she drew people's aura at the same time. But as we were figuring out like the merch piece, aside from the readings, we quickly came into like, what is the cost to buy these items? What is the cost for her time to create them, or like make them, put her art and her own signature twist on it? And these were things that, as a person who owns a business who was making it for the first time, I had a good education, and I was grateful to have a partner in Beth to bring it to life. But I was like, oh, this is a steep learning curve as to like, what is the cost to produce these things, and what is the overhead to do it up on the front end versus wait for the money to come in when hopefully folks love it and buy those items.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a...
But to your point, I worked with a local artist. Like I could have gone to Vistaprint or Zazzle, nothing wrong with those places, but that would have been big business making something that didn't feel as personal. And I really wanted to work with a local artist to bring those items to life. And I was really glad that I did, because Beth nailed it. And it was really incredible. But, that's a choice, right? To work with someone who's local versus maybe going a cheaper route with big business. It's just not personal. Yeah. Not as cool.
Well, I think that, I'm excited to talk to Beth, I think, next week.
Yeah. Oh, she's your guest next week?
Yeah.
You're going to have so much fun with Beth.
No, she's great. She did the window downstairs. I'm looking forward to, picking her brain on some other ideas. I know she did I think she did the mugs for my friend Melissa's.
Yes.
For Hail Bone Broth.
Yes. I think Melissa has worked with both her and Kayla now, but I believe Beth on our podcast shared that she made the initial design and has worked with Melissa Smith of Hail Bone Broth and also Girl Gang and also Hanover Farmers Market. All these entrepreneurs, guys, wear so many different hats. You just don't know.
Well, I mean, I might need to,
What mug are you? What mug are you
just
using?
using one from.
Said the woman using the plastic cup from Slackhead.
No, this is just one from Local Pottery, which I know. I think is where I originally met. I might have met Beth. I think she had some stuff over there with Lisa at some point.
Oh yes, I think you're right. I mean, Beth is so ingrained in the community that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, but maybe I'll have to talk to her about some concepts for
maybe you
a
need
frame
some custom
set, a
mugs
special
for the
frame
frame
center
center.
mug.
Yeah, sounds like that could be the next avenue for you guys.
Yeah,
with your
why
merch.
not? We need merch. We'll see.
Yeah.
Again, you got to figure out, what things cost and what what it's worth. I mean, merchandise is interesting because people always need need another T-shirt or this and that, and then you get your name out there.
Wait, it's funny
it's a nice
that you
thing to gift to people.
It's a nice thing to gift, but to your point, the interesting thing about merch that I realized takes a little longer to feel into is that we, the business owners, can have a vision for what we want to offer, but if we haven't talked to our customers about what they want, or figured out what makes sense in relation to our business first, and then pitch our clients, would you buy this? Would this be of interest? Then it's a bigger uphill battle to sell those items.
Yeah, buy it. Would you wear it?
Right?
So
do you even want this? Is this something you would rock and would you think is cool? But that's a bigger piece of the puzzle for sure.
Yeah, I think that design aspect is important, right?
Yes.
And to your point about working with a local, person, when you're dealing with something local and your market is, obviously, as a podcast, I'm sure you want to, reach all sorts of communities, as do I. But you're starting here, so you want it to. Any merch you put out to be, repped in this area.
I want people to feel good about what they're supporting, right? I am someone who stands for supporting local, shopping local. If you want to see your favorite businesses stay open, you have to shop with your dollars. Yep. It's not enough just to say you love them. You have to spend your money there.
Yep.
So I just feel like if I didn't do that, I would not be in congruency with who I say I am, right?
Yeah, no, I get you. I mean, when I decided I was going to tell people they should buy art, I have to start buying art.
I just start buying art.
Yeah.
Wait, it's funny that you say that, though, because two things just crossed my mind. I think I'll go in the local realm in this moment. But even though I'm someone who's not, this is a funny hang up I had about coming on your podcast, is I'm not an artist, right? Yeah. But I definitely think about art in all of the different arenas in which I'm showing up in my career. I think the experiential marketing one is pretty straightforward. There's, for very high level, just did a pop-up in New York City, and I worked with a local fabricator to physically bring the space to fruition. And then I worked with a local, the Beth Bailey of New York City for the painted windows in New York. We wanted local. We wanted someone who was buying to the community. They also helped promote the pop-up. So that's one avenue. Separately, as a person who works in this industry, in this events and experience industry, I'm a visual person. I'm very inspired by my surroundings. So for me, I really, even though I may not always talk about it in a big way, I found myself, supporting artists and buying art. It's so funny, as I was trying to put together a list of artists I've purchased from on the South Shore, it was more than I realized, because I need to talk to you about framing some of my pieces to get them up on my wall, Dave. But
good. I think I see a train
good
coming.
Segue.
A nice frame for a tarot card reading.
Ooh, a little swapperisky. I mean, it's awesome when I think about all of the places that you can buy art from, right? Local artists either doing pop-ups or showing up at markets. North River Art Society does these incredible gallery shows. You can buy art here at the Frame Center, at other local galleries like Kel Mahoney's, and I think it's just really fun to see what's being created in this community. And for me, I'm cheating and looking at my sheet now because I don't want to mess this up. Some of my favorite local artists, if I could shout them out.
Yeah, 100%. I love to know who people are interested in their art, and I'd love to maybe I'll hear a new one.
Maybe there'll be a new name you're not familiar with.
Yeah.
All right, so the people that I have bought art from that Some are on my wall. Some will be on my wall soon once I get them framed by Dave. Mary Gill Martin of Hanover.
Mary Gill Martin works here.
She works here?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to talk about that offline because Mary and I have a very personal connection with a family friend.
That's funny. Yeah.
Dang. Okay, so Mary Gill Martin.
She works in the basement making frames a day a week, and sometimes two.
Are you serious?
Yeah, she's. I mean, obviously she's been a customer of mine forever, and
she's so
she
talented.
She asked about working, and she's a great addition to the Frame Center team.
I was just gifted a commissioned piece that she did of my dog who passed in November, and it is the most realistic painting I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And that's not even scratching the surface of her range. I have like a snow evergreen sunset that she painted a few years ago too. Her talent is boundless. So big fan of Mary Gill Martin. Obviously, Carla Hunter, we gave her a lot of airtime before, but guys, if you're not watching Carla, she's one to watch right now in my mind.
100%.
Sally Dean, I bought this moon phase calendar from her in Christmas that I've got on my wall that is bringing me so much joy. Judy Manning and Margaret Bailey Rosenbaum, they're two artists on the South Shore that I found through North River Art Society that really paint some beautiful florals that feel abstract that I'm surprisingly drawn to, but I love them, and they're some of my favorites.
Those two I'm not familiar with, so you'll have to
check
show
them
me
out.
those. Yeah.
I also love Spencer Moorcroft. His photos are absolutely phenomenal. He does a lot of work for Levitate.
Okay.
But I would say he is a phenomenal landscape photographer. He does a lot of pictures of surfers and the ocean, and also he did this really cool series on owls that I would not sleep on. Mm-hmm. And then a couple of other. Another artist that I've been loving too is Ray Prince. I think Ray Prince, so that's not a, I wish I knew what Ray's medium was, but her art is really cool and feels a little bit more modern in nature.
The booths, there's that, a booth at.
She has a lot of markets. Yeah. And she's also, I think she also does a large scale mural at Levitate too.
Okay. Yep. I'm familiar with the name. I've seen the booths at a number of events.
I mean, there's so many talented people on the South Shore. So whether I'm buying it as a patron because I want to surround myself by pieces that evoke emotion or bring back a memory, right, of like a good time I had, or if I'm considering how I can factor them into my events or my experiences, like the visuals always impact how I am trying to think of a space and the energy I want to create from it.
Awesome.
I'm like, did I get all the names in? Did I tout some of my favorite artists? Did I miss anyone?
You should. I mean, I think that is, I mean, why keep these people to yourself, right?
No.
You want them to succeed. I mean,
I want them to thrive, but you got to buy from them if you want them to thrive.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I feel like, a lot of these artists, it's like, when you're younger, well, I mean, I guess maybe it's still in this day and age, like, you hear like cool music or something like that, and it's like you want everyone to listen to it, and you want to hear it, or just like finding it before it becomes very popular. Yes. I think is
Wait,
it almost like reinforces that you have the ability to see like see a star in the making, or like see someone
like having a front
identify
row seat.
talent.
Yeah, I think for me it's like I get to have a front row seat to your artistic evolution. That's just really cool.
Yeah,
and I think Mary Ann does a really good job of that, of Artie Pants Mag.
Yep,
she's so good at eyeing talent. He's got it, guys. Please take a peek at Artie Pants Magazine. The second edition is right here. The third, I think, is coming out very soon.
Two ads in there.
Oh,
podcast being promoted in there.
The Frame Center supporting Artie Pants Mag. I love this local publication. Actually, House of Stellium has an ad in here.
Nice.
But what's really cool about Artie Pants is that there's so many local artists that are featured in here of all different mediums. So if you haven't checked out, that's actually my good friend Alini's photo right here. She's not fully out there yet with her photography, so I won't totally out her. But, there's so many ways to support local guys, and this is a local pub and one you could certainly support to show or, like, get your eyes on some of the local artists and budding artists.
See stuff that I mean, the only way you find out about artists is if you look for it, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to start showing up at your door like, hey, want to buy this?
So weird. It would be nice if they would.
No, it would be. I mean, so you have to go out and look for it, or at least have your eyes open, because you can be anywhere, and you go, like Slack Tide. You're sitting there. Me and Christina Godfrey was on like 2 weeks ago, and she was talking about how she was having coffee there with somebody, and somebody's asking about the Mike Sleeper's piece.
Right, I didn't mean to sleep on that. That's right. Slack Tide has a great gallery wall in their Hanover location, and they feature lots of great local artists with QR codes too.
I mean, why not use, like, everyone should have that sort of thing.
Yes.
You have a local business. It's a fantastic thing that they do for those artists.
Totally.
And,
Oh, and actually, Slack Tide was one of the first wholesalers to buy from Marianne Gibbons for Artie Pants. So
nice.
Just so many ways to support local, guys.
Well, I think that I'm psyched you came in.
Thank you so much for having me.
These are fantastic conversations. I've been fortunate enough to have two with you, one with Larry, one without him.
I know. Although I hope Larry felt supported at the jump of this podcast. Wanted to make sure he got some good airtime about.
Well, he's a big piece.
Deep Dives and Light Laughs would not be what it is without him. The two of us have such a good riff going on, and we really love the people that we're talking to, for sure.
I love what you're doing. I'm honored that I was able to be a part of it, and
we were stoked to have you on.
I'm glad that you made the trip down here. And anytime
Dave,
you guys,
it was so far.
You have
it was
so
far.
You have a canceled guest, and you need a last minute stand-in. Just give me a buzz. I'm not far.
Don't put ideas in my head, because we got so much. Seriously, we got a lot of great feedback about your episode. People loved listening to it. So now that I know that you're willing to be a last minute fill-in,
why not?
Get ready for your phone.
If Larry doesn't want to just talk to you,
I know, right? Larry's like, do you think people will listen? I'm like, we have the data to support that the episode of Just Us last year was actually really, really popular. I don't know why, but it was.
Because I think it gives it a chance for people to hear your story a little bit more. And, hopefully this episode of Inside the Frame podcast will give people a chance to hear a little bit more about you. And much like artists, I think that when people identify with you a little bit more, it'll help and make them even more intrigued to listen to the podcast. So
I hope so. Well, thank you so much for having me, Dave. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for coming in, and I have a feeling. I think we're up to 3 conversations now. I'm sure
more to come.
Some framing, some tarot card readings.
We got a good swap teed up, I think.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.